Good morning. John Gilkison here. It's Friday, March 5th, 2021. And this is, I think, my final follow-up video on the aerodynamics of the Tesla Cybertruck. In this one, we're going to want to focus on just the Cybertruck by itself. And Phil Knox, my aerodynamics friend, generated two more graphs of, these are road load graphs, of what this same package would do at drag coefficients of 0.25 and 0.20. In other words, if you had a Cybertruck-like vehicle and you reduced the coefficient of drag from 0.30 down to these other CDs, this is what its performance would be. And in looking over the graphs, I finally got around to generating MPG tables for it at the various speeds and then the range, considering that it would have a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack and it would have the Cybertruck drivetrain. So what we have here is, there's a couple ways to do this. Let me show you the graphs first. They're kind of impressive in and of themselves. So let's see how much we can get them in here. Okay, there they are. You can see this Cybertruck graph is on the right. It's the tallest one. The middle one is the 0.25 coefficient of drag, and the one on the other end, the shortest one, is the 0.20. And as you can see, there's a dramatic difference. And in compared to the last set of graphs we published, which were from 0.40 down to 0.30. And the reason for that is just proportionality. The difference between 0.40 and 0.3 is like 25%, but the difference between 0.3 and 0.2 obviously is 0.33, 33%. So anyway, now there's a couple ways of reducing the coefficient of drag of the Cybertruck just as it comes from the manufacturer. And one of these would be towing a trailer. The second would be obviously adding a boat tail. You take the hitch and back, a slider hitch and a platform, and build a boat tail, which would reduce the wake area of the vehicle even further. Now the second one I don't have an image for, but I think you can imagine it. But anyway, a reasonable sized boat tail could easily probably reduce the coefficient of drag down to 0.25. A trailer could take you down to 0.20. And I wanted to show you the trailer. I've published this before, but see if we can get in here. There we are. See if I can hold still for a little while for you. There's your trailer. There's an accordion-like structure in between the trailer and the truck where the tow bar hitch is. And that's for filling in the gap between the trailer and the tow vehicle, which really improves aerodynamics a great deal. And it still allows you to turn corners and so forth. So these are the descriptions of what we're talking about here. Now I'm going to have to set the camera aside here for a second while I flip these pages here. This is the one we're going to want to look at, which is right here. And quite simply, the improvement in range is astonishing. At 65 miles per hour, which is a common speed for traveling, the range for the Cybertruck would be 514 miles. But if you could drop the coefficient of drag down to 0.25, which is this middle column here, it would be 526 miles. And if you could drop the drag down to 0.20, it would be 604 miles. So there's over about 150 mile gain in range just simply by doing that. Now the improvements are even better, 75 miles per hour. As you go faster, aerodynamics does more for you. And even though the totals are less. So at 75 miles per hour, the Cybertruck's 424 miles. At 0.250, it's 484 miles. And at 0.20, it's 556 miles. So obviously now all of a sudden you have 130 mile gain, whereas before you had 100. Anyway, it's about the same, but the upper end is where you really gain it. So also, and I meant to mark this point, I didn't do it before I started shooting the video, but right here is this 50% thing, which is roughly at the lowest coefficient of drag. It's around 60 miles per hour. 50% is your rolling resistance, and then the other 50% is aerodynamic drag. But at 0.25 coefficient of drag, it drops down to about 55 miles per hour. And then over here, the Cybertruck, as it is somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 miles per hour. So that's a tell. And then as you can see, and I always like to point this out, the Cybertruck at 100 miles per hour is going to take 54 kilowatts to do 100 miles per hour. But if you could lower the drag down to 0.25, it's only going to take 45 kilowatts. And then at 100 miles per hour, for the lowest, 0.20, it's going to take 39 kilowatts. So, quite dramatic. And Phil says it's now possible to do, let's see if we can't get this out here a little further. There we are. It's now possible to do 0.10 drag coefficient, given what aerodynamicists know how to do today. And I don't dispute it. However, I think these really super low drag shapes probably are going to be much longer, because you'd have to bring the back to a complete taper, practically like an aircraft. And many people would find them objectionable on aesthetic grounds, probably, but more to the point, there would be practicality issues involved. It would really help if some of the very aft sections were deployable. In other words, you didn't have to carry these long shapes around with you all the time, but only when you were on the highway. Because obviously at speeds in the city and speeds below 50 miles per hour. Aerodynamic drag isn't that big of an issue. That's why we keep talking about this 50-50 ratio, because below that, rolling resistance is a greater component of your drag than aerodynamic drag is. So for the Cybertruck, it's below 50 miles per hour. And for the 0.20 coefficient of drag, it's below 50 miles per hour. So there you have it. I wrote this up as a blog and published it at the EVO SNN, which stands for Electric Vehicle Organization, Southern New Mexico, Facebook page. And let's see if I can get this off of here. Come on. Don't mean to make you seasick here. It's hard to handle a camera and deal with this. There we are. It is a 5-page blog, which I went ahead and put the graphs in and my tables. Of course, including the picture. And I ended the blog on this note, and that is that, see if I can get this camera stabilized, let me see how to phrase this. I wanted to talk about the fully charged show on how dirty in-combustion engines are. And they were doing a wheel-to-well analysis, and it was an animated piece that they did, and Llewellyn, who hosts the show, did the voiceover for the animation. It's really great. It's very entertaining too. You need to go to Fully Charged and see that video. But there's probably, for every gallon of gas you buy, whatever the energy in it is, there's probably that equivalent of energy at the very least is expended to get you that gallon of gas. In other words, you got to get the oil out of the ground, you got to transport it, you got to put it on ships, you got to put it in pipelines, you have to transport it. There's pumpers to get it out of the ground. At the refinery, you got to use a great deal of energy to convert it into usable products. And then then you got to get it to the gas station, then you got to go get it. And by the time all that's said and done, so then they're saying, well, internal combustion engines are only 30% efficient. And I think that figure's high. I think they're really around 25 on a good day. But anyway, if they're 30% efficient, only about 15% efficient if you include the whole well-to-wheel equation. And obviously, electric vehicles are 3 times more energy efficient. And although they use 1/3 the energy just to go down the road, and then if you even consider that there's 3 times the amount of energy used to generate the electricity, you're still way ahead in the equation by at least about a factor of 2. So in other words, the total energy production equation for electric vehicles is to get you the energy and then to drive the vehicle is about half of what an internal combustion engine is. And it can be done a lot cleaner, obviously. And I think the whole argument goes out the water if you got solar panels on your house and you're generating power. And like I do, my panels are only a few hundred feet from my vehicle. Maybe 100 feet. There's no line losses, no anything. I'm 6 times better than an internal combustion engine all day long, every day. So when I'm driving electrically. So there you have it. I need to close this. I'm going over in time, but I hope none of you got seasick, and we'll see you on down the road. You all take care. Bye-bye.